Well, this is the Swarovski STR 80 spotting scope. This is an 80mm spotting scope with an illuminated reticle built right in. This happens to be the MOA model, and I've got the 25 by 50 wide eyepiece spun on this. So as we go through my experience with this spotting scope, I'll probably laughably and crudely edit in some images or some other videos kind of showing you at least kind of a view of what the scope offers. I took some images while shooting various targets and things like that with a phone scope put on the end of this, and if any of you have used a phone scope, you know, you have to kind of adjust the image a little bit, so it won't be a very good representation necessarily of the full image you get looking through this, because you kind of have to zoom in on one part of the reticle, and I'll explain it in some of the other clips. So, but I just wanted you guys to be able to see some of the benefits that the scope offers. Obviously the main features of this scope is going to be that illuminated reticle. That's what this whole scope's built around, and what that does is it allows a shooter and a spotter to have the same references as far as like corrections and things like that. So how I would get around this in the past is I would like range the target that we were both looking at with the reticle. So it could, for instance, it could be like a minute and a half high and a minute or half a minute wide, and we would use those measurements as references for corrections. But this scope kind of does away with all that, as in you can use the reticle and it'll give you the same references as long as you're using the same base, you know, as a MOA based scope, MOA reticle spotting scope. I found this really helpful because I take a lot of new shooters out. Where I'm at, there's not a lot of long-range shooters, so the corrections has been very difficult for me, trying to get people to help me with my corrections. They just don't really understand or have a good grasp of using that. But with the reticle, it kind of takes all that away. I mean, you just count the lines and you tell me exactly what's going on. So like I said, in some of these videos we'll go through, I'll be able to kind of explain a little bit better how that affects or how that improves the shooter-spotter relationship. But here's the Swallow reticle again. We've got it centered on the 10-minute of angle just because those hashes are a little easier to see for judging here. So this is 513, and you can see by the reticle it looks like it's about, what, 2 minutes wide, the target? Yeah, about 2 minutes wide. So we'll see, we'll put a shot down here and we'll see using the reticle how easy it is to help with our correction. Intentionally aim off the target on this one, and I'll aim off target 2 minutes of angle, and we'll see how that lines up with that reticle right there. Right. So I'm going to try and aim to the right. I'm going to miss to the right by about 2 minutes, and hopefully that matches up with the reticle.
So for that one, you're just under 2 minutes to the right, and you were almost a minute high.
What it looked like on my reticle too, so it's just under 2 minutes. So you can see how using that scope, if I wasn't able to spot my own shots, how much easier that is to bring you onto the target instead of you were half a target right, or which is totally functional. I mean, you can do it that way, but this gets you, you know, right back on. So according to you're you know, using that reticle, I mean, you can see it watching the video just the same as anything else. It looked like it was just under 2 minutes to the right.
Yeah.
So I'll put a shot down real quick with that correction. So that was with the correction that you gave me, just under 2 minutes, and it looked like I hit.
You center punched the target.
Center punched it right there. So I mean, that reticle is amazing for doing this type of shooting where you have a spotter helping you walk in to your target. It's going. This video is an example of what I was talking about in the introduction, about having to focus in on part of the reticle. We were playing around with a couple of video options. This one happened to be trying to use a video camera to shoot through the scope, and it turned out to be kind of a poor quality option. but unfortunately it does show the usefulness of the reticle and making corrections. So you'll see after this first shot and then the second shot how using the subtensions of the reticle makes corrections much easier and more precise.
There you go.
Hit.
Kind of like that. Alright, I'll put another shot down.
So this shot was 515 yards, and after the first shot I dialed 1 minute left windage because I wanted to see how the scope correction corresponded with the reticle and the spotting scope here. And as you can see, that's about as perfect as 1 minute as you're going to get. So I think this clip really highlights the usefulness that this reticle can provide to the shooter and spotter team. Alright, 773. And that wind is going left now. I'm just going to shoot right at this and you can tell me. So this shot's 773 yards. We ended up having to change our video option because anything over 600 yards we weren't able to keep the target and reticle readable. So in this video the spotter is using the Swarovski spotting scope and we're recording with a video camera.
You are
Maybe like a quarter-minute low.
yeah, maybe. Actually, I didn't notice any issues with elevation, and you were about a minute and a quarter left.
Okay. Well, I'll run that. I'll add that minute and a quarter wind.
Okay.
Alright, 414.
So this target is 666 yards, and you can see what I was talking about, how the target is getting a little bit out of focus. So even though it's a little blurry, you'll see how easy it is to use this reticle to call precise corrections for the shooter. So using the reticle, I'd call for a correction of 1 minute left and up half a minute.
Go.
So this is a steel rabbit target at 596 yards. And even though it's a really small target and it moves after the shot, you can see how using this reticle you can call corrections even on these small targets. My buddy had just mounted a new scope on his rifle, and I thought sighting this in would be a good workout for the STR. So we're shooting at 212 yards, and even though he is over 10 minutes to the right and 8 minutes high, we're going to make pretty quick work of this. If he'd been using a high quality scope, I probably would have had him put full corrections in, but with these lesser scopes, I like to chunk the corrections out. So some final thoughts on this STR80 here. First is the glass. It's just got excellent glass. It's got that typical Swarovski glass that everyone compares themselves against. So it's, you know, super sharp, edge to edge, crystal clear image. And my favorite part of it is it's got a super flat image. And what I mean by that is, you know, if you're panning across the hillsides trying to pick up animals and things like that, with other spotting scopes, you'll get a rolling effect, or like a fishbowl effect, if you will. And there isn't a better scope out there that does a better job of flattening that image out. And that really takes a lot of fatigue off my eyes when I'm scanning for animals. So I really noticed that comparing that to my Zeiss 85, is that effect of the image is the flatness and it's probably my favorite part of the glass quality itself. Something simple, sounds silly, but the attached scope cap covers. Like I said, the Zeiss 85, it's got a removable front lens cap, and that thing is just gone. It just disappears. Whether you're hunting or shooting, it's I end up having to find it 3 or 4 different times, and I've really appreciated having the attached scope caps. And obviously, we talked about the illuminated reticle that it has in this. I really do feel like it's made my shooting better, or my shooting sessions, I should say. Shooting with all the different people that I shoot with, calling corrections, things like that. It's been a huge benefit. If I'd had this scope when I did the long range Sportsman's Challenge back in May, I believe it was, I believe I would have picked up a couple of points, as my spotter and I weren't really on the same page for some of the corrections, and using this reticle would have taken care of that. So with all that technology though, you do pick up quite a bit of weight, which I would say is the downside of the spotting scope. I believe the tech sheet said it weighs in at about 70-71 ounces. I mean, you compare that to my Zeiss 85, and that thing weighs, I believe, 56 ounces body only. So you're picking up a lot of weight there, but it's not a huge negative, as I don't feel like this was designed to be a backpacker's or lightweight spotting scope. It's a shooter spotting scope. It's got the reticle built in, so I'm not really finding that big
Some
of
of
a
the things
negative. You can also get with this, you can also order a different eyepiece, the 20x60 eyepiece. I'm kind of like a magnification junkie. Obviously that's why I'm running the Zeiss. I get a 75x zoom, so I think that this paired with that 20x60 eyepiece would be really great, kind of all-around spotter, with the exception of backpacking. So one of the other things that really, not really related to the scope itself, but is even though it's big, it's fat, it's ugly, you get a great image out of it. But I use a Nimrod spotting scope cover basically for my optics, and this thing is pretty nice. So if you're ever looking at a way to transport your optics while you're hunting or anything like that, take a look at the Nimrod spotting scope. I think they still make it, spotting scope cover, but this still fits right in there. And with the amount of money you invest in some of these spotting scopes, it may be a little extra weight, but it's a nice cover. It's padded, stuff like that. So it's just kind of a little extra, I guess. It's a nice spotting scope cover if you're ever looking for a way to kind of protect your investments. And that's going to be the Swarovski STR 80. If you get a chance to check it out or are interested in one, feel free to make any comments on the videos or on the thread, I guess, and I'll try and answer any questions I have. But it's a great spotting scope. You get a tremendous image quality, a lot of cool advanced features for the shooter, at least, with that illuminated reticle, and it's just a kind of a well thought out, well built, well executed spotting scope. So anyway, I hope this video has helped you guys out, and again, if you have any questions, post them on up and I'll see if there's anything I can help you out with. Thank you.